Hello there, everybody. Hope you've had a great week and are ready for the penultimate weekend of EFL action. Now, I don't know about you, Matt, but I absolutely love the last two games of the EFL season. There's so much excitement around it. Every game, or almost every game, has immediate consequences, and yeah, it's the start of the season that's always the juicy bits, right?
Under 30 seconds in, I've already got my first Carlisle mentioning. From a purely fan perspective, I am not enjoying the end of this season. But I will share the, I'll share the feeling that it is the best time of year generally. There's so many games with so much riding on them. And with my betting hat on as well, this is obviously the EFL betting show. It means opportunities, I think, a lot more chances to make a case with conviction, because when there's a lot riding on it, often draws are out of the question. Often goal swings are needed, and it just makes a lot clearer picture of exactly what a team is going to go there and do. Because through a lot of the season, we're always guessing, aren't we? They might take a point, they might try and nick it, they might a narrow defeat might not be the end of the world. Now we know exactly what every team needs, exactly what their motivational level should be. Doesn't always mean it will be the case. And I think this week, we've both gone for a bit of an upset in the Championship, which maybe wouldn't go with the team needing the result, but we'll come on to that very shortly. But yeah, it certainly makes for very interesting high stakes fixtures. Just before we go any further on this, I should just say that this is the EFL betting show with odds now. Please do gamble responsibly if you are having a bet this weekend. Keep it all to your limits and make sure you're taking the relevant action to understand the risks of gambling and make sure you're doing it in a sensible and sustainable manner. If you're watching the EFL betting show for the first time, welcome along. This is myself and Gab. You've probably found us through Gab's Twitter account, but we do this on a weekly basis throughout the season. We've only got this and one more to go, sadly, but it's been a cracking first season of doing this show. Really, really enjoyed it. We've had plenty of winners along the way, and how we do it is every week I pick three from the Championship League 1, League 2. Gab picks three fancies from Championship League 1, League 2, and we'll have a little bit of back and forth discussion, see which ones we like the most, and hopefully point you in the direction of a few winners. Last week, we had a very good Easter Friday, both turning a profit, but unfortunately, Easter Monday wasn't quite as good. Gab, you were the saving grace. Your nap won. I think you had Portsmouth to beat Watford, which made it not an absolute disaster. But my luck was out, unfortunately. I think there was something like 35 shots in the Cambridge Leighton Orient game that I put up for over 3.5 goals, but it finished on 3, obviously, with Orient getting a 2-1 win. And Georgie Kelly, my streak of Georgie Kelly goals finally ran out. I put him up at 10-3 and 7-2 successfully in the previous weeks, but unfortunately hit the post in a 1-1 draw with Accrington. So no dice there, and it means I will have to offer up something slightly different on League 2 this week after just repeating my pick for the last 3 shows. I guess we should dive right in then. We'll start with the Championship, and it's a nice, easy one, Gab, because without any prior communication, we've landed on the exact same pick. We're going to go for a bit of an upset here in the Championship. Norwich to beat Middlesbrough 9-2. I've done a lot of talking there, so I'll let you start, Gab. Obviously, been a turbulent week for Norwich, but we both think they're a bit big here.
Yeah, even though you apply the permutations and which teams really need the points at this stage of the season, I would still go that the 9-2 on Norwich City to win is a huge price, given that these are teams that have been competing in a similar vicinity of the table over the course of the campaign. And the fact that I'm not sure how much I really trust Middlesbrough at the business end of the season to really come up trumps when it matters. That's not something I've always associated with Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick. And also there's a bit of me that thinks, as much as I wouldn't have made the call that I did to change manager for Norwich City, I do think Johannes Torup seemed like a very technical coach. But you know how you get some managers that you think are a bit like a scientist, a bit kind of maybe not as great at building a rapport with the players, very good technically in terms of they know what they're doing, but also maybe not like super manager motivator kind of thing. And so I just have this feeling that you bring in somebody like Jack Wilshere, who does have a bit more of a let players off the leash a bit more in terms of his management style. I would imagine, based on what I know about him and his character, I've got a feeling that that's going to be refreshing for these last two games, while Norwich City look for the permanent replacement for Torrop. So yeah, I've got a feeling that Norwich City might go to the Riverside and win.
Yeah. I mean, the price jumped out to me off the page straight away, 9-2. I just thought it was massive for, as you say, two teams that have been pretty much of a muchness this season, just hovering outside the playoffs, inside the playoffs, and never really feeling personally with any conviction that either of them will get in the playoffs. I find them both hard to trust. And yes, Norwich obviously have had that managerial change with Torup. I think it maybe split opinion a little bit in the Norwich fan base, because there had been discussions with the American owners only a month ago. I remember us talking about it on this show, and his comments after that were, we had really constructive discussions about the future, getting Norwich back in the Premier League in 3 to 5 years, and all this sort of long-term planning. But I think if there's one theme we have noticed with American ownership in English football, patience can sometimes be in short supply and things can change quickly. And obviously, I think there's been quite a lot of defeats, something like 7 in the last 10. And obviously, frustration has just built in the ownership group, and they've opted for that change. In the interim, as you say, we have Jack Wilshere. A really interesting couple of games coming up, I think. And funnily enough, he's going to be taking on two midfielders he'll have duelled with many a time in Michael Carrick and Aaron Ramsey at Cardiff. You know, you're getting old when those three are managers. Don't you? God, I can remember all three of them playing international football, not so long ago, but maybe that's just me getting old, but Jack Wilshere, actually, I agree with some of your comments. I was lucky to interview Jack Wilshere a couple of years ago when he was youth coach at Arsenal. And I really, casual humble bragger.
Hobnobbing with the stars, man.
I know. Yeah. God, just a small boy from Carlisle, and look at me now. But honestly, what I must say, I think we're guilty sometimes of having perceptions of people that we see on the TV, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to get with Wilshere. He was so generous with his time. He spoke really, really intelligently and insightfully, and I could just tell he got a real kick out of working with youth footballers, and like that. He had that role in Arsenal's under-18 academy coaching role, and from everything I hear, Arsenal are big fans of him as a coach, not just as a player. Obviously, he's got a strong connection to the club, but they really do rate him as a coach. And they felt like he was somebody who could progress within Arsenal into a really senior coaching position. I know Arsene Wenger once said when he was a player that he thought he would be a future Arsenal manager. So, I mean, that's pretty high praise from somebody like Arsene Wenger. So it's clearly not a surprise to people in football that Wilshere has landed himself in this kind of role so early. Now, it's only a couple of games, but I think he'd be really keen to make an impact. And like you say, I think he's such a polar opposite to Torup in the way that he's going to approach this, that it could be a real releasing the shackles off for these Norwich players who've had a pretty rubbish season all in all, probably feeling down in the dumps. It's 2 games to go and enjoy yourself against a Middlesbrough team who I just do not trust at all under pressure. Michael Carrick, I saw him this week saying that it wouldn't be a failure if they miss out on the playoffs, but I'm not sure that's the motivational speech that I would be wanting as a player with 2 games to go. Now, I've got a lot of respect for Carrick as a tactical coach, but I do wonder if these repeated slip-ups in what look like winnable games, if it's a coincidence or if it's just happening a little bit too often. Maybe it's an area that he needs to work on a little bit. But yeah, I just think all the ingredients are here for a potential upset here, and you don't need much convincing at the price. The 9-2 available with Betfred and a couple of other bookmakers. So I'm really glad we agree on that one. And hopefully our agreement ends in a really big price winner.
What do we think of Norwich?
Fantastic. That's a clean version anyway. Right, okay. So let's move on to League One then, seeing as we had some agreement in the Championship. Gab, I'll go over to you first. A massive game at the top of League One, Wrexham facing Charlton. You've written about Charlton on 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 occasions this season, and found them, I think they've always been in your mind, it's fair to say, it's since the turn of the year as a team that have got a really strong chance of getting out of the division. In more recent weeks, we've talked about how the playoffs looks their likeliest avenue. They're hoping to go and beat Wrexham here and take things to the final day. But Wrexham, obviously, it's a massive, massive game for them as well. It goes without saying. So just you're wanting to be with Wrexham here on the betting. There's 7-5 with AK Bets to get the victory. Tell us why that's how you've landed.
It's permutations, Matt, because let me sort of, I don't know if this has been fully sort of explored yet, but Wycombe Wanderers go to Leyton Orient in the 12:30 fixture, and if Wycombe fail to win that game, then it means that Wrexham can mathematically rubber stamp promotion on Saturday evening if they beat Charlton Athletic, because obviously the team below Wycombe are Charlton, so Wrexham beating Charlton means that they're guaranteed to finish above them. So that's really my thinking on it, and I think that I'm basically chancing the probability that the permutations come into play. I also think that Wrexham, given their home form this season, 7-5 on them at home in any game probably isn't a bad price, other than Birmingham City. So I think 7-5 is a good price generally, but I think when you factor in the possibility of Wycombe failing to win at Leyton Orient, who have won their last four, by the way, and are currently going for the playoffs themselves, I think that's going to be a really hard game for Wycombe to win. Then I think there's a great chance that the opportunity is there for Wrexham to go and grab promotion to the Championship. So that's why I'm going for the 7-5.
Yeah, it's a very interesting game, isn't it? And I saw Nathan Jones remarking that Charlton have to go to the circus and see what they can get or something. He made a little dig at Wrexham, which is quite typical of him, really, at this stage of the season when he's on full Nathan Jones mode. But no, two of the quality sides in the division, without doubt.
Matt, do you know what's going to happen, Matt? Wrexham fans are going to go bringing clown masks and then celebrate in front of Nathan Jones when they win promotion.
I think these similar to the what we saw with Chris Wilder getting a bit of stick off Burnley fans. Could see similar from Wrexham fans if they do indeed seal that promotion. Do you know what? I hadn't really looked and thought about that Wycombe game against Leyton Orient. That's a very, very tough game for them. Maybe it could be done this weekend. And by Lord, if you've got a chance to get things done before the final weekend, you want to do it, because there's guaranteed nerves, drama, and just edginess that you could just quite simply do without. As a neutral, we're willing for everything to go to the final weekend, aren't we? But I think, if Wrexham do find themselves with that opportunity to go and seal it, then that's 7-5. I think they would probably shorten between 2 and 3 p.m. into maybe close to evens.
Matt, can I just give you another point of view, though? As much as this could be decided by Wrexham this weekend, how crazy it is that it's on this weird pivot to the automatic promotion race where Wrexham could win promotion this weekend, but we could also go into the final day with as many as 4 teams in the mix for second. Because although Wrexham would tie it up if Wycombe failed to win and Wrexham beat Charlton, if Wrexham were to lose to Charlton, let's say Wycombe draw with Leyton Orient and Stockport beat Lincoln City, then all of a sudden you've got 4 teams within 2 points of one another going into the final day, which would set things up beautifully. So, it could go either way.
It would. Well, from a neutral perspective, Gab, I'm going to hope you've picked a loser there, but I do like the logic. And I think that it's particularly if what you suggest about Leyton Orient getting a result, I do think having that inspiration, having a home game, knowing that you can seal promotion, I think that would tilt it in the favour of me maybe wanting to be with Wrexham there. So I totally see the angle, and let's see how that pans out. It's going to be very exciting. You mentioned Stockport taking on Lincoln. I very nearly picked Lincoln at 18-5 because I thought they were a massive price. They've been much improved in recent weeks, and I did wonder about Stockport's motivational levels now with almost certainly in the playoffs. But I talked myself out of that one a little bit because of Dave Challoner, who I just think is a master motivator, and I don't think he will give up. And they're very, very good, aren't they, Stockport? So I don't want to underrate them. But that one entered my thinking. Instead, I've landed on a mid-table clash, actually. Wigan to beat Blackpool at 15-8. This is my fancy here in League One. Now, normally when teams are in mid-table at this stage of the season, it goes one way or the other, doesn't it? It's either that they've had a relegation worry or a playoff worry that has fizzled out, or that they've been kind of stuck in mid-table for quite a long time, not going up or down. And I think they're two completely polarizing situations, really, in terms of emotional baggage. If you've been in a relegation fight or a promotion fight, once that's done, there must be a massive sort of either a low or a relief that may make it hard to sort of pick yourself up and motivate yourself again. In the latter situation, which is the one I say Wigan in, they've been known that they're in mid-table for a little while now. Your season can pan out one of two ways. It either just falls really flat because you're all waiting for sort of August, or you start building something which can help momentum into next season. And I think the timing of the appointment of Ryan Lowe in mid-March has helped Wigan with achieving the latter. I do think they are building for next season. I think they've looked really, really decent in recent weeks. Lowe spoke really positively about coming into the club and the feeling around the club and what he's getting out of the players. They're enjoying a really strong series of results. Not high scoring, it should be said, but 3 straight draws against Leyton Orient, Exeter and Wrexham before back-to-back wins over Shrewsbury and Rotherham. So I think, for a mid-table side, that's about as good a form as you could ask for, really. Blackpool, on the other side of things, they're not necessarily out of form, but they have lost 2 of their last 3. And if they'd have hypothetically won those, they'd only be 3 points off the playoffs with 2 games to go. So any hope that they did have of the playoffs has now gone. I saw Steve Bruce's comments after the loss at Wrexham saying his team were second best and there's a lot of disappointment in the changing room and stuff. And I just think this might be 2 teams on different mentalities at this stage of the season here. Wigan at home on a 5-game unbeaten run, really building, really positive vibes, versus a Blackpool side who've been really decent for most of the season, but just come up short. And I wonder whether Bruce might take his foot off the pedal a little bit. I just wonder if he's the manager to really try and drive standards high once they've fallen short. I feel like he won't be that bothered how they end the season. Now he'll already have one eye on next season, whereas I feel like Wigan, they want to, if they can finish this season unbeaten, it sets them in great stead for next year. And it makes Ryan Lowe's summer a lot easier because he can sell to the players he's trying to sign. Look, we finished on an 8-9 game unbeaten run here. We're in a really good place. So, yeah, I think for motivational reasons, a little bit surprised to see Wigan nearly 2-1 at home here. And that's the way I'm feeling with this one.
You should be in marketing, Matt. I've been sold by that one.
Oh, good. Well, that was the plan. Yeah, sometimes you say them out loud and they don't quite go as well as you think. But no, I do. Do you know what? I think Ryan Lowe is an interesting manager, isn't he? Because he's had a lot of success at different levels in the EFL, and even his time at Preston, even though it ended quite sourly, I think you have to look at the finishes he achieved and the results he got and say he did a pretty good job in the circumstances. I think there's sometimes argument over the way his football, his style of play with fans sometimes gets a little bit tedious or frustrating at times. But again, at Wigan, we're not seeing a lot of goals. I think all the last 5 games have had 1 goal in them. But it's doing the job, and they're getting results, and the players clearly are buying in. And I feel like Lowe is a good talker, a good communicator. And I do, when I see one of his teams on a good run, I take notice.
Also, Matt, one for you as a Carlisle fan. You remember Derek Asamoah, right? He was so quick for his age as well. Like you'd
he's
see
still
him
playing,
like,
Gab. He's still playing. He's 45
still playing?
or something. He's still playing in non-league. His son plays as well, and he's like 22. And there was a game, I might be getting this wrong here, I'm pretty sure that Dad was subbed off for his son at non-league level.
You have a go, son. Go on, I'm done.
Derek Asamoah, what a player he was. He scored at Anfield, an equaliser for us in the League Cup. Real cult hero at Carlisle. Yeah,
Bastion Hervey game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
So where was I? So Malleus Asamoah is currently in a good vein of form for Wigan. They've also got a really talented goalkeeper in Sam Tickle as well, who I would expect to go in the summer. Hopefully they can get a big fee for him. But yeah, I can see how the solidity that we've seen from Wigan this season, they'll finish the season in good form.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to move on to my next pick, which is Walsall to win to 0, because I saw Walsall on Good Friday against Harrogate Town, and they started that match. First 20 minutes or so, they were absolutely all over Harrogate, by miles the better team, and they finished that game for the last sort of 25 minutes or so completely on the front foot. It was the same at Newport, actually. They were all over them in the second half. So I think, yes, Walsall's confidence can be a little bit fragile at the moment, and that's why they've had some sort of difficult moments within games.
Understandable, isn't it, really, when you look at the results?
But I also feel like there's a situation where if they can get one or a couple of goals, they do have the potential to put a run together. And I also think defensively in the last couple of games, they haven't really been challenged. Harrogate scored a couple of goals out of the blue, but other than that, they weren't really threatened, and I don't think this Accrington Stanley side have a huge amount of quality in them. So, I've got a feeling Walsall might start on Saturday at a really high intensity, get an early goal, and possibly have a more comfortable afternoon than we've seen in recent weeks.
Well, given Carlisle can still catch Accrington with a 10-goal swing and 2 wins, let's hope you're right, Gab. Let's hope it's like a 6-0 or a 7-0. Really get stuck in. I don't know. I mean, like most people, I think, I'm looking at the Walsall situation from the outside. I'm worried for them because it looks like a great season is potentially going to, completely unravel. But, like you're right. You do look at the underlying numbers and it doesn't look as disastrous as the results maybe suggest. I think that Harrogate game, they had 65% of the ball, more of the good chances, like you say, and maybe a little bit unfortunate there. A similar story against Newport, so it wouldn't be a great surprise to me. I feel like they maybe need an early goal to settle them down, because like you said, when that confidence is low, the longer it goes 0-0, and if you miss a chance or two, we all know. I mean, it sounds very cliche, but it is true. When you're struggling, if you don't score and you miss chances, and the longer the game goes on, you're thinking, we're going to get sucker punched here. Certainly as a fan, I don't know about as a player, but I can only imagine it's a similar thing with the confidence level. So I would like to see them score early if I was backing them. But I mean, I'm certainly not against the selection, because I watched Accrington last weekend against Carlisle and they were pretty abject, to be honest. Really, really. I mean, that was a nervy game. There was a lot riding on that game. Neither side played free-flowing football, it should be said. But it was one of those games where I kind of looked at Accrington and thought, this team's a bit fortunate to be staying in the EFL if that's how they're playing. But obviously they've been better than that at points of the season. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think I didn't see anything there that would make me think Walsall wouldn't be able to, put them away fairly comfortably. Particularly now their safety is all but sealed. All but mathematically sealed. So, yes, I wouldn't have too many strong complaints with that. Very intrigued to see how Walsall go in the playoffs, if that is indeed where they end up, because on their day they have the quality to beat any team. But I do worry about the way the second half of this season has gone for them, I suppose. So, I wouldn't have strong complaints, and that is 6-4. I think I'm right in saying, Gab, with Betway. So,
yes.
Yes, so Walsall to win to 0, Gab's fancy there against Accrington Stanley. Well, in League Two, I'm also focusing on a playoff hopeful, I suppose you would say, versus a relegation struggler. Morecambe, unfortunately, were confirmed to be exiting the Football League last weekend. They have to go to Chesterfield now, who, despite sitting 10th, I actually still give a bit of a sniff to the playoffs for. The reason for this is that 8th and 9th placed Colchester and Salford are playing each other tomorrow. So at the bare minimum, one of them is going to drop points, possibly both of them if it ends a draw. And that does open the door for Chesterfield to give themselves a chance on the last day. Now, Chesterfield's goal difference is very strong as well. So at this stage of the season, that is a very useful thing to have. They will be relying on a slip up from one of the others slightly above them still, the likes of Grimsby or Notts County. But if we've learned anything about League Two this season, it's not to trust anybody to actually win the games that they should win. So despite that, I am making this case that Chesterfield have a good fixture here at home to Morecambe. I'm going to back them to win both halves at 5-2 because I think the need for them to win this game and win it well is absolute paramount. And I think Morecambe, as much as I admire Derek Adams, and he says that they're going to try and go and give it a right good go, I think ultimately they have just come up short of quality too many times this season. We talked many times about Morecambe, about the way they had to assemble the squad with non-league players on low wages. And I don't think it's been a lack of effort or a lack of drive. I think it's actually just been a lack of quality, pure and simple. I think if Adams had the same level of passion and commitment from a slightly more technically sound squad, I think they would have stayed up, because I do like Derek Adams as a manager, particularly at this kind of level. But yeah, I think he's just been done for quality this year. And I think against the Chesterfield side that really, really need to win and win well, this could spell trouble for them. And I think that 5-2 is massive, really.
Yeah, well, one thing I would like to add as well, because I think there's a possibility that Morecambe have been fighting this season, and they've done actually really well to get to 36 points with a squad that is, not a million miles above something like National League North level in terms of the standard of players. And so I think that to be in so many games and be nearly there, but just fall short and lots of 1-goal defeats, I think that when the relegation comes, what's probably more likely to happen is a bit of a. I'm using my vocabulary range really well there, Matt, as you can tell. But I just wanted to add to the possibility there, just to expand on what you're saying. I've looked up on Odds Checker the possibilities of Chesterfield maybe, backing them via the handicap bets. You can get a -1 at 5-4. You can get a -2 at 3-1. You can get a -3 at 13-2 and a -4 at 16-1. So a few options there. If you want to go for the possibility that Chesterfield, with their superior individual quality, and they have got players like Will Grigg and Ryan Colclough who are, do have the ability to really turn on the style on their day. I just wonder if there's a chance that Chesterfield might knock a few goals past Morecambe. So
I do as well. And let me tell you, I actually considered also putting up like a couple of correct scores here, like a 5-0 and a 6-0, which, obviously it says by the odds they're fanciful and you're going to need a bit of luck on your side. But it does have that feel of that kind of game where if this is 2-0 after 20 minutes, you fear for Morecambe, don't you? Like, where do they go from there? They don't have the quality to turn it round. They don't really have any need to hang in there we'll just take a 2-0. So I could just see Chesterfield getting their tails up and thinking, we'll get the goal difference up here. We get flying. That's kind of how I see this game. So I may yet play a couple of correct scores on this game yet, but we'll be looking at that kind of 4-0, 5-0, 6-0 region. We'll see. Just to sum up this League Two playoff race, because it is really, really intriguing. Chesterfield are down in 10th on 64 points, but you've got Salford 65 and Colchester 66 playing each other tomorrow. So like I say, one of them is going to drop points, possibly both. So if Chesterfield win tomorrow, they will be no lower than 9th, but they could feasibly be 8th or 7th, depending on other results. On the last day, Chesterfield play another relegation sort of struggle in Accrington. So again, quite a favourable fixture on the last day should they need it. Whereas some of these other teams in the playoff mix, Wimbledon and Grimsby playing each other on the last day. Notts County have to face Doncaster, who could be going for the title on the last day. Colchester face Barrow, who, despite having nothing to play for, are in a really good run of form. And Salford face have to go to Carlisle, who may or may not be relegated, but could technically be needing a result to, prolong survival hopes, however faint they are. But you know what I mean? So I look at these fixtures for Chesterfield, Morecambe and Accrington. I look at the points gap and the amount of teams that could slip up and give them a way in. I really do think that they've got a chance. And the way that these other teams, and I made this case on Odds Now's punters panel last week, that the way that the other teams have kind of ended their seasons in these playoff spots, if they do sneak in 7th, I think they'd have a real live chance in the playoffs, and I'd be really interested. So I took a little bit of 50-1 a couple of weeks ago and then maybe getting promoted. And I'm really hoping that comes home to roost, obviously. But we'll start with a convincing victory over Morecambe. To win both halves is 5-2. We'll just before we finish the show as well, we'll summarise our best bets. So me and Gab agreeing in the Championship. I've gone for Norwich to beat Middlesbrough, like my co-host. In League One, I think I've talked Gab into Wigan to beat Blackpool at 15-8, done the marketing spiel on him. And then, as I've just been mentioning there, Chesterfield, who really need the win against already relegated Morecambe, to win both halves is 5-2 with 8-8 sport. Gab, out of those three, obviously we agree on Norwich already, but would you be with the other ones as well? I mean, feeling like you're quite positive about my picks this week.
I know. I don't know what's got into me.
Come on, at least talk one of them down.
I think Norwich, yes, because of the possible new person at the helm factor. I think Wigan because of their form, and I think Chesterfield because of some of the factors that we've spoken about, the possible drop off from Morecambe. So yeah, I think you get a clean sweep for me today. So there you go.
I would be delighted at those prices.
What would you put forward as your nap, Matt?
Yeah, do you know what? Like Norwich is obviously a bit of a price player. Like if Norwich were 5-2, I wouldn't be interested. But 9-2, it just feels massive, So that it should just stress that. I'm not putting Norwich up saying they will definitely win. I'm saying they definitely shouldn't be that price in the circumstances. These to win both halves bets, it looks a really good price that, but they can go wrong quite easily. Just like a 3-0. It could finish 4-1. They win one half 3-0, the other's 1-1, and you're on a loser, even though it's a 4-1 win. So I probably wouldn't put that as the nap. I am going to trust in Ryan Law. Wigan to beat Blackpool 50-8 would be my nap. But I do quite like all three of them, to be honest. And I think at the end of the season, I always seem to fancy bets a little bit more, just because of all the things we spoke about, the clarity of thought, the lack of, the lack of, what do they need? What would they settle for? I know exactly what everybody needs and wants now, and that's why I'm betting with a little bit more confidence. Hopefully, the results will replicate that confidence as well. Let's have a look at yours. Let's have a look at yours, Gab. So, like me, you've got Norwich to beat Middlesbrough 9-2. Wrexham to beat Charlton. You made a good case for it, 7-5. And Walsall to win to 0 is 6-4. What would be your favourite out of those three?
I'm going Wrexham to beat Charlton just because I think it's a 5:30 game. If it was a 3:00 game and Wrexham, it wouldn't be as clear cut that Wrexham could go up with a win. I wouldn't be as big on it, but it's the fact that Wrexham will know that a win gets them up by 5:00. So I think could be a huge motivational factor. So yeah, Wrexham beat Charlton 7-5.
It's funny you say it's because it's a 5:30 game, and that might sound a bit bizarre to some people, but I totally know what you mean. Like 3:00, I'm probably not interested in backing them at 7-5, but 5:30, Sky cameras, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney in their seats getting panned to every 10 seconds. Maybe it's just a little bit of a bit of narrative. It feels inevitable, doesn't it? I could literally picture it in my head. Yeah. They
won't be interested in the game, though. They'll be just getting shots of Ryan.
Oh, they will. Yeah, they will. Yeah. Fake reactions, Normally with them, it's like there's an offside goal that they celebrate or something. Isn't there something like, that just shows them up? But now we'll see. Anyway, it's a big weekend for a lot of EFL clubs. So whoever you support and whoever you're watching, cheering on, wish you the best of luck. Hopefully, by the time we do next week's show, Carlisle have still got some faint chance of being on this show next season. I doubt it, though.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us for the EFL betting show here on Odds Now. You could do us a massive favour if you enjoy this content by getting subscribed to us over at Odds Now on YouTube, and you can also check out the website, which is more of which to come in the next few months. Just as a reminder, 18s and over as always, and please gamble responsibly. Make sure you're aware of all the risks around gambling, and set deposit limits and all the rest of it. Enjoy your weekend of EFL action. Good luck with your bets, whatever you go with, and we'll see you again for another EFL betting show next week.
Cheers all.